we'll kind of move it on to, a quarterback that just got traded today. And I'm glad it was today because knowing us, we probably would have recorded and then it would have happened the day after. But today morning, Matt Ryan, quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons for the last, 13, 14 seasons.
15 years.
Uh, yeah, has been traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a third round pick, and the Falcons will eat up a little bit of his salary. I think they take a $40.5 million cap hit, while Indy has to pay him $24.8 million this year. So I'll let you get into your initial thoughts and take it from here.
First of all, I'll start with the Falcons here. I really don't like this trade for Atlanta, mainly because of that dead cap charge. $40.5 million is ridiculous. Anish was kind of saying it before in the CHT chat, but he didn't think they were going to take on all that money, and they ended up doing it. And I really don't like that they did, but it had to be done. This is a new regime. Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith have done a decent job to this point, but I feel like Matt Ryan had to go. And I hope for Atlanta, I really hope they get Malik Willis at 8. He's an Atlanta native. I've stated
Ooh, I've
stated this before, but I would love him in Arthur Smith's system, an offensive-minded head coach. He's got Kyle
I don't
Pitt.
know if I agree with that because here's why, right? I think they should wait till 2023. Because
That's fair, but if he's available at 8, I don't know.
He's not if you compare him to Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or any one of these 2023 guys, I think they have far more potential. I think Atlanta should be playing for that class because think about it. The bad teams going in next year, right? The only one that may be looking for a QB is Seattle, right? Because Jacksonville, who we think was probably going to be at the bottom still, is not looking for one. They're still going to ride with T-Law, right? The Lions will probably pick one this year, if not ride with Goff, right? I think they would be at the heart of that next year's class, and I think they should probably wait on it.
Even then, if you drafted Malik Willis and you sit him for a year behind Mariota, he could learn a lot from Marcus. I mean, he's won a playoff game.
I would lean on no and rather get best player available. But I mean, also the dead cap hit, it's only for a year. So it's not right.
It's off the books next year. So but it's still a lot. I mean, and I'll get to the Colts now, but look, without Matt Ryan, I would say the Colts are like a bottom 5 team in the AFC. But with him, I think they are the best team in the division. I will say that first. I got them first in the division. I think they're a solid playoff contender. I could see them winning a game in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the divisional round. I really like this move for the Colts. And I think they really pivoted here because last week it was, kind of us hating on Chris Ballard a little bit. And now he pulls a Matt Ryan trade, and now you don't have to go with Sam Ehlinger. So I think it's a great move for Chris Ballard. Hopefully he can bring some sense of stability to the Colts. Obviously, stability doesn't work well with QBs in Indy, but maybe he could give you something. He's really old, but I like him more
than
that
old. He's 34?
He's older than that. I think
no, he is. Yeah, he's maybe
37, 38, 39, somewhere around that. But look, I think with Matt Ryan, I like him more than, I like him more than the Wentz trade last year. I like him more than a Phillip Rivers. I think he could definitely steal a game or two in the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen. So I think it's a great move for the Colts. Not a fan of it for the Falcons, but hopefully, they can rebound and get their guy.
All right. I'm going to say I think everyone won. I think the Falcons won in the sense long-term, right? You get out of a potential extension with Matt, right? And you're not going to win with him. As unfortunate as it is, he's not going to be able to overcome a bad roster. Just it's not possible he's just not that talented. He's not, in that sense, right? So I think Atlanta got out of that, and now they give themselves a chance to really rebuild, full-on rebuild, because Matt's going to win you some games that you really shouldn't be winning. Now you have a chance. You're going to get a lot of cap space in 2023. Go out and build this team. I think that's a W for the Falcons in that respect. I think this is a massive W for the Colts. Really, I am a big fan of this. And as much as, I was saying the Colts are overrated as a franchise because of Luck, Unitas, and Manning, this is the best thing they could have gotten because Matt Ryan is the definition of stability. He doesn't get hurt, and he's not a guy that's going to be brash or cocky off the field, right? He's a talented QB, and finally, we're talking about a guy who finally is going to get an offensive line, a really good running back and a pretty decent receiving core and a good defense in
They
over
need they
5 years.
need they need a guy, across from Pittman, but yes.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, it's better than not having Calvin Ridley for
Of
11
course.
games
Of
last
course.
year,
Yeah.
right? So, like, I mean, this guy's finally having a good defense. When is the last time you could say the Atlanta Falcons have had a good defense? Their Super Bowl year. That's literally it. And it was because of Ryan being so good on offense. I love this move. I'm really excited. Like, I think Matt Ryan is, I think this, as I agree with you, I think the Colts are the best team in the division right now. I think,
Yep.
I think Matt Ryan will elevate, and I think people will really start to realize how good he still can be.
Right now, everything is on paper. I think they're knocking on the door of a top 5 AFC team, even with how stacked that conference is. They're knocking on the door. I'll ask this: do
Yeah.
you think they should go out and get Julio Jones?
I wouldn't be opposed to it
Mm.
because they probably won't spend too much on him. So yeah, and obviously the chemistry with those two is unmatched, right? It's just Julio's hamstring,
Yeah.
which he hasn't had a good hamstring in 3 years. But I mean, yeah, like I would not be opposed to it. But here's what I'm also gonna say, right?
Mm.
You know how much of a fan I am of Frank Reich. Like all the stuff aside with Wentz, it's objectively clear that Frank Reich is a really really good head coach. This guy has won at least 7 or more games with Jacoby Brissett, Carson Wentz. No matter what QB you've thrown with him, he's found a way to win games. So you're giving him Matt Ryan, who I think is probably the best quarterback he's had since Andrew Luck. Sky's the limit for the Colts. I mean, barring any major injuries, and again, Matt Ryan finally has a Jonathan Taylor that he can hand the ball off to. He doesn't have to throw the ball all the time like Atlanta would make him do for the last 5 years. I would not be shocked if Matt Ryan were top 5 in passing, maybe, or maybe even if the Colts were a top, as you said, a top 5 seed. Like this, I think people are really, really gonna sleep on the Colts in that sense, just because people recognize Matty as a middle of the pack QB. But I think with this Colts system, oh, he can for sure elevate that.
I think he's the best quarterback in the division too. I'd take him over Tannehill personally.
You know how much I love
You like
Tannehill.
Tannehill,
I,
but
I got to put him in the same tier, but you're right. I think
sure.
Tannehill's confidence has definitely been shattered after that last playoff win, especially because how the media turned on him. I mean,
Yeah.
because like this guy still won. I think he still went like 5-2 without Derrick Henry. So it's not like the dude couldn't do anything without him. And I think people are just forgetting that because of the 3 interceptions, and a couple of them weren't even his fault. But you're right. I would put him in the same tier. And I think with the Colts, I think Matt Ryan could be better, which is why I would rank the Colts number 1. But yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say is just watch out for that team because they have a playoff caliber roster already, right? And now you get a guy who is way more stable. That's what you needed for the Colts at the quarterback position, which is why I think Wentz didn't really work out because he's too up and down, right? As much as I love the ups for him, right? He does have the downs that you have to take with him. With Matty, you get way less of that. So I think that's really big for a team like this. And I mean, hopefully they can get it right here, right? I think he is under contract next year as well, for $29 million. So his contract does end 2023. So that's another reason why Atlanta takes a dub because they don't have to pay that next year. But yeah, I think this is a massive W for Indy. I'm
We're
really
both
excited
fans of this. Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.